Welcome everyone. We've reached the top of the hour to our webinar today on proven techniques to increase customer satisfaction. I'm your host, Rachel, and delighted to be joined by two fan favourites of our webinar series, Richard Kimber. Welcome back to I think at least 2 or 3 webinars we've done with you before from Comotion. And for people who don't know who Comotion Consulting are, could you give a bit of an introduction?
Sure, Rachel, and it's really nice to be back, so thank you again for the invite. So Comotion Consulting, we specialise in helping organisations to become more customer-led, and I'll share a little bit more about that when we get into the presentation.
Brilliant. And Mike Murphy from Genesys, welcome back to one of your many webinars we've had.
Yeah, thanks, Rachel, and good to be here, and looking forward to the subject. I like this subject. Yeah, I work in the sales side at Genesys, and I have for 10 years, and before that I was with 2 other companies in also the same sort of area. So I'm kind of very familiar, if you like, with the challenges our customers are facing as they kind of embark on technology in this area. And yeah, I've working with Genesys, we're kind of a leader in this space from the technology point of view, like a long known name in the area, but becoming a very interesting place to be right now, and enjoying being here.
Brilliant, great to have you both here today. Just a reminder to our audience that the discussion is carrying on in our chat room today on callcenterhelper.com/chat, or we do have a short term. You just need to put cch.chat into your browser and it will take you through to our chat room. It is in a separate window, but you can put them side by side, run the webinar on one screen and have the chat room side by side. Or something that a lot of people are doing is putting it into your mobile phone. So added bonus for being in the chat room is that you can download a copy of both our presenters' slides, lots of information on that, and also a chance to join in our quiz, which will happen about halfway through the webinar. So we have a prize for the winner of that, so make sure you join in. So we are taking a recording of today's webinar. That will be available later on this afternoon, normally about an hour after the webinar, on callcenterhelper.com/recorded-webinars. And just a reminder that we are doing our favourite, champagne, box of chocolates or an Amazon gift voucher for the best tip today. You just need to put into the chat room #question to ask the panel a question, or #tip to share your tip and be within a chance to win a prize. So to kick off today's agenda, I'm going to hand over to Richard. So I will make you, there we go.
Yep. Perfect. That's great, Rachel. Does everything look okay?
Perfect.
That's brilliant. So firstly, thank you very much for taking the time to join the webinar today. I'll do a little bit of an introduction in a minute, but this is some of the subjects I'm going to talk through today. Looks quite a lot, but literally sort of 15 to 20 minutes. I'm coming at this very much from a measurement and insight perspective. That's my specialism. But straight off the bat, what I want to just draw attention to is the simple does not equate to easy on the right hand side of the screen. I think that certainly we've seen, and probably you all know as customer experience professionals, that I think we think that customer experience improvement, CSAT improvement, is simple, and in relative terms it is, but simple is not the same as easy. And I think we've certainly seen over the last sort of few years how quite complex it is, to coordinate cross-functional teams, to secure budget, to have that conversation at the boardroom level. That's quite difficult, and to sustain it as well, that is difficult. So I just wanted to frame the context of the next sort of 15 to 20 minutes with that piece, that simple is not the same as easy. So a little bit about Comotion that I work for, and then a little bit about me. So we're a consultancy, and we help businesses to become more customer-led through strategy and transformation. Now, for me personally, transformation sounds a little bit grandiose. All it means is literally we help organisations get from where they are today to where they want to be in the future. And we frame that discussion and the activity around 6 sort of core pillars. On the right hand side, you'll see from strategy through insight, design, delivery, measurement and culture. And it may be that an organisation needs more work in one area and another, or a couple of areas. So we very much sort of frame the conversation about that. In terms of me personally, I am a certified market researcher and data scientist. I specialise in measuring customer satisfaction and loyalty. So principally, I help organisations realise measurement activity, turn that into knowledge, and then turn that into insight with a view to improving customer satisfaction, improving the customer experience. So I just wanted to start with framing out a little bit of the landscape that we're dealing with today. So this is the UK Customer Satisfaction Index. The latest results came from January 2020 this year. Unfortunately, we've now seen the 5th consecutive drop in terms of the satisfaction on the high street, for want of a better description. And just as a reminder, it's a B2C measure and index, not a B2B. But we're seeing some real sort of trials and tribulations. We're operating in an environment of continued uncertainty, which adds another layer or multiple layers of complexity. We've still got Brexit uncertainty. Obviously, we've got to now add in complexity around the coronavirus and management of that. We've got continued trouble on the high street that we've seen, so where bricks and mortar retailers are losing share to online sales. I think heard a stat today, for every £5 spent in retail, £1 is spent online. So that's quite a significant challenge. And then some really sort of high street names that have gone to the wall in the last sort of 18 months. So Genesys, Mothercare, Mamas and Papas are actually a business that are based here in Huddersfield, quite a large manufacturing setup. So that's struggling as an organisation at the moment. I think they're still selling online, but very much scaled down in terms of operation. And then Clinton Cards, again, another name on the high street. And then again, just listening to the news, we've had Flybe go into administration in the last 24 hours. So a really challenging environment, not just for retail businesses, but for business as a whole. And that's sort of the context that we're operating in. Having said that, it's not all doom and gloom, and there is some stuff that we can do, and we'll share that with you, both myself and Mike, over the course of the webinar today. So one of the slides that I wanted to share with, and I keep coming back to this one sort of time and time again, quite frequently, is around the perspective on customer satisfaction. And again, this isn't an acknowledgement that either is right or wrong. It's just acknowledging that these two perspectives exist. So at the top, you've got the lens of the organisation, and organisations typically measure things around processes in terms of our service levels. Are they where they need to be? If not, do we need to do some remedial action? KPIs, all that sort of typical stuff. People, are our people performing to the level that we need them to? Are they empowered to deliver outcomes and value for customers? And in terms of products and product development and products and services, in terms of market share, new percentage of new products, all those sorts of good measures. To be honest with you, from the customer perspective, they just don't care about that sort of stuff. And I'm not trying to be blunt or rude about this, but they just don't care. Customers care about outcomes in terms of, if I buy a product or a service from an organisation, is it going to give me the benefit and the result that I want? Do I trust the brand? And all that sort of good stuff. If I have a problem, do I trust them to put it right and to help me with queries and all that sort of stuff? So, and the reason for me sharing this is that as I walk through the slides and talk about measurement and knowledge and insight, we should be very much thinking about improving customer satisfaction from the bottom perspective and understanding the customer's view of the world, in addition to the top view of the world. And again, from an organisational perspective, you can add in, a raft of financial measures in terms of profit, revenue, gross margin, and all that sort of good stuff. But in terms of to truly effectively understand and improve customer satisfaction, we should be quite firmly rooted in the bottom perspective. Just staying on the subject of measurement for a while, it's evident, certainly my personal experience, having worked with lots of clients, that there's lots of stuff we can measure. That doesn't necessarily mean we should be measuring it. And I think when we think about measurement, we should pick things to measure that are effective in terms of helping us understand the world that we work in and live in, but should also help us inform our understanding of the customer. And anytime I talk to sort of clients around measurement, I sort of apply and get them to apply the 3A test. So you've got actionability, or is it actionable as a measure? So if we understand something and we get some data on the subject, can we do something about it? I think I see lots of organisations that measure things that are nice to know, but not really effective, and they don't help drive either the organisation forward or the understanding of the customer forward. So that's the first A. Second A is what I would term accessible. So can people get access to the data easily and understand it? And one of the things I would strongly advocate, whether it be in a contact centre with agents or whether it be any business, is to push data down and spread out in the organisation. Let people have data, let them be curious about it. It might be that they can rediscover or discover insights with CSAT data that weren't understood before, and I think that's a real opportunity for organisations. So accessibility is the second A, and then the third A is about the data being auditable in terms of, do we understand the source of the data and where it came from, and more importantly, can we trust it? I think very often I see, and Mike will probably confirm this when he does his slot, surely, you know, multiple systems, multiple legacy systems that don't talk to each other, data that is conflicting or tells conflicting stories, and more often than not, as I alluded to earlier on, there's no single view of the truth or no single view of customer, and I think that's a real challenge. So the 3 A's again, auditable, accessible and actionable, really important. So Rachel, time for poll?
Yes, so I will just launch the poll now. So the question is, how do you currently measure customer satisfaction? So it is pick all that apply, and the options are percentage of satisfied customers, net promoter score, first contact resolution, number of complaints, or through a combination of measures. Richard, I don't know, what do you think is going to come out on top? Or
I'd probably argue through a combination of measures. I think certainly I view measurement as like as having a toolbox. And then you've got a series of tools in the toolbox, and you apply, you know, the relevant tool for the relevant job.
So last few coming in, and I'll close that and share the results. So yeah, 46% said through a combination of measures, 39% say net promoter score, 38% percentage of satisfied customers, 20% first contact resolution, and 18% number of complaints. Richard, I don't know, is that kind of what you were expecting to see, that sort of variation?
I think so, Rachel. I think, you know, through the combination of measures, as we just sort of highlighted, I think, and again, it's what I see in business on a day-to-day basis. You know, there's not one sort of single source of measurement activity.
So with that, I think I can hand back to your presentation.
Okay, that's great. Thanks, Rachel. So I just want to continue the theme around using measurement and insight to improve customer satisfaction. One of the urban myths that I need to dispel is that measurement in itself is not insight. So as an example, this has come from an event client that we're working with at the moment. And there are a series of bullet points and data points. So NPS is plus 22, which is great, up 4%. Attendees say they want better Wi-Fi, well, don't we all? First time exhibitor churn is 55%, 35 complaints about registration, and booth dwell time is up. That's great. Lots of data, lots of facts. So what? As we're going to come on to see, being able to answer that so what question is really quite important in terms of not just driving the organisation forward, but in terms of improving customer satisfaction. And if we just use the analogy along the bottom of the screen, moving from left to right, certainly in those statements that are above, we've got a series of data points. Data generally translates then into measurement noise, and then it's being able to distill the measurement noise into classification of information, which is great. Again, we're not quite to an insight point yet. Transforming information into knowledge, again, is a really important step. And then that knowledge drives or can derive insight from that. And just flicking over the page, this is a really good example of insight where it's created more of a narrative around being able to answer the so what question. And I won't read through it all, but if we follow the narrative through to the last bullet point, it's quite clear that the insight shows that you know, the event needs to show exhibitors how to change their show strategies, stand design, and who they staff their booths with. That's different from Net Promoter is 22 points up from last year. That gives you a real, in terms of, so what do we do next, which is a point that I'm going to come on to. So this is what I've alluded to already. And if we start at the what segment, what is really the descriptive level? So what generally is derived from survey data, any sort of type of survey data. It describes what's either happening now, if we've got the luxury of having real-time analytics, or what's happened in the past, which is great. And research, having worked in the research industry, research is always interesting, but if it can't answer the so what question, it sort of probably hasn't done its job. So what does it mean to us as an organisation? What does it mean to our customers? What does it mean to revenue or profits that we're going to look at in a minute? So what does it mean for market share, for brand, and all that sort of good stuff? So if we can answer the so what question, the final sort of piece of the puzzle is then, so now what do we do with it? You know, what do we take in terms of action that is either going to improve customer satisfaction, it's going to improve customer experience through the contact center or through any channel, and it really helps drive an action plan. So there are sort of three really important questions to be able to answer in terms of improving customer satisfaction. So this is an actual example, and I think just before I sort of go into this, I think as an industry, and I include myself in this, I think we've been quite weak at being able to demonstrate the tangible return on investment for improving customer satisfaction. And I think one of the conversations we alluded to at the beginning of the webinar was around, you know, sustaining that conversation in the boardroom. And ultimately, you know, organisations are in business to make money. You know, let's not pretend they're not, because they are. You know, and if we can do that through, you know, improved customer value and improved customer outcomes, that's great. But I think as an industry, we've been generally quite weak at being able to demonstrate that tangible return on investment. And I think that has to change. I think we're seeing a little bit of malaise around customer experience at the moment. And I think certainly some of the conversations we're having with clients is around, so, you know, you want £50,000 for customer experience initiative. So what's the return on investment, either in terms of customer retention, heading off customer churn, or just improved revenues? And these two charts here are a piece of work that we've just recently completed for a client. Certainly in the exhibition space, first-time exhibitor churn is massive. Like it's a huge problem for a number of reasons. And in this example, this is one particular show we looked at for a client. 50%, 51% of those exhibitors that start in year one will not get to year two, and that's massive. Declines a little bit year two, so it drops to further. So customers that stays over 38%, then it plateaus a little bit to 37%. So again, you know, the question to answer here is, so what? You know, so is it an issue? Is it not an issue? What are the financial implications for this? So what we were able to do was some modelling on the right-hand side of the screen, which is a chart that shows the increased spend per exhibitor if they stay past year two. And on average, it's 45%. Now, you know, that's not a little number. If we think back to the context we started this discussion in around the really challenging landscape, if somebody came along and said, you know, I can bring 45% increased spend, customer spend to your business, would you like it or not? I don't think there are many, certainly there are not many FDs that would turn that down, so finance directors. So, you know, it is possible to prove the return on investment, and I think we took this analysis on further, and we were able to show that actually if they were to increase retention for 4 years, they would maximise something like £740,000 worth of business, you know, and again, they're big numbers, and there's nobody that wouldn't take notice of that. So the point I want to make here is about being really clear and really specific in terms of what it is you're trying to improve, whether it's a problem you're trying to solve with customers or an initiative that you want to launch, to be really, really specific about it. And then the reason I'm using this example is this is the Deepwater Horizon oil spill back in 2010. Shocking challenge. I think 11 people lost their lives on the platform itself. There was an estimated 4.9 million barrels of oil spill. Obviously, the impact to the environment was completely disastrous. And I think to 2018, the cost of the cleanup to BP had peaked at just over $65 billion. You know, that's no little issue. In their infinite wisdom, BP, a Freudian slip, thought they would, because they didn't know how to stop the oil spill at the wellhead, they thought they would crowdsource some solutions in their infinite wisdom. Now, I have nothing against crowdsourcing per se, but you need to be really, really specific in terms of the question that you asked. Unfortunately, BP weren't, and it resulted in the numbers we're seeing here. So 100,000 responses from 100 countries generated 43,000 ideas, which was reviewed by a team of 100. Now, that amount of resource and that time to review 43,000 ideas is no mean feat. From that, they were able to take forward 470 further ideas for investigation, but ultimately they could only deploy 30 ideas in practical terms. And that represented a 0.069% of the 100,000. So, you know, solving problems, you just need to be really, really specific, whether they be customer sat problems or any problems in business. The more specific you can be, the more likely you are to be successful. And again, the final thing I would say on this slide, and it's a bit of a funny quote to leave with, you know, we talk about fixing the basics a lot, not just we at Comotion, but generally in the CX industry. And I would resist the urge to jump in and do the sexy stuff, as we like to call it. That's like, you know, the really creative stuff, the really flashy things. I think we as human beings are a little bit like magpies sometimes, and we like to jump straight into what we think is the issue and put solutions in. I would just say make sure you're just really specific about what it is you're trying to solve first. And again, just sort of heading to the end of the session, love them or hate them. McDonald's are a great example of a consistent business that has consistent process, that offers a consistent experience. You can go into any store in any town, in any city, either in the UK or in Europe, and you are more than likely going to get the same consistent level of food, same consistent level of service. It's just a brilliant model. The interesting thing, again, you know, consistency provides great customer experience. You know, customers don't feel averages. So as an example, if I were to put one hand in a bucket of ice and one hand in the fire, on average, I don't feel great. You know, and customers feel that variation. So the more consistent process can be and more consistent experience can be, the more likely you are to be successful. The other interesting thing that we're introducing here is McDonald's have gone down the, if you want to self-serve, you can, which is a great application of technology. And I'm going to sort of finish on talking about technology in a minute, which sort of segues perfectly into Mike's piece about technology. And, you know, it just gives customers an option. If I want to self-serve, I can. If I don't, there will still be a member of staff at the counter. So technology application can help us be a little bit more consistent in terms of our delivery, and it should be embraced where possible. So just one of the final examples that I've got, and that's Holly on the left-hand side, my running partner. And the reason Holly is here today is to illustrate an example that I experienced with a housing association I worked with a couple of years ago. So they had, on a particular housing estate, they had a real problem with dogs and dog muck. It featured everywhere, quite literally, but in customer surveys, it featured a lot. It featured in complaints, it featured in queries. If customers came into the office to pay rent, they would talk about it. The chatter was all over the place about it. And the company, to cut a long story short, didn't actually do anything significantly different. They didn't employ dog wardens, they didn't go litter picking or anything like that. They just facilitated more conversations around the problem. They talked about it a lot. I think in 1 month alone, they measured something like 20,000 mentions about the problem. And literally, almost overnight, the customer satisfaction scores went up without any other initiatives, without anything, as I said, no dog wardens, nothing. Purely by talking about it a lot, customer satisfaction went up. And to my point on this about, you know, customer experience is everyone's responsibility, even if it's just facilitating more frequent conversations, whether it be team meetings, whether it be daily, weekly stand-ups or huddles, if you do those, introducing the conversations to the boardroom. Again, it's just raising that awareness. And that's a really simple thing you can do in terms of improving customer satisfaction. You know, and just get agents to talk about it as well in call centres and give them data. You know, make them be curious about wanting to understand the customer and the customer experience, and you're on a winning path. And then just to finish off, I think, well, not think, I know it's everywhere, you know, digital transformation, we talk about it. You know, we're in the digital economy, we've been in there for a few years, and I think to Dr. Nicola Millard's point is inaction around digital and digital deployment is not an issue anymore. Those companies that don't act or are slow to act are already, you know, being left behind the curve. I think, you know, technology like robotic process automation, I know, for example, in the Northwest, Wirral City Council have deployed it in their contact centre to help agents, well, to take the burden off agents by not having to handle documents, not having to process, you know, sort of benefit claims or anything like that from customers. So quite a quick and simple deployment like RPA, for example, increases customer experience, customer satisfaction, but it improves employee experience. So they don't have to do the boring stuff, you know, and there's a real opportunity now to automate some of the boring stuff, let agents be a bit more creative, have some really great quality conversations with customers, which is what customers want, which is what employees want, if we're going to be honest. And, you know, as consumers, we're ready to take that step into, you know, chatbots or, you know, using AI. I was talking to an AI company this week, a company called Reinfer, that use quite a deep learning model to connect, you know, at scale, multiple customer conversations with far more accuracy and quality than agents could. Not the agents, but the technology that is there to really help us. So hopefully that's been useful for you. Thank you certainly very much for listening. If you want to find out more, please connect with me. My email address is there. Or connect with me on LinkedIn. I'm always happy to have a conversation around anything customer related, whether it be metrics, insight, measurement. So please connect, and thank you again.
Thank you very much, Richard, for that. Lots of interesting insight, which I'll come on to in a minute. Just a reminder, we're just coming up to our quiz. So we've got about half the people who are logged in today in our chat room. So you can access that on callcenterhelper.com/chat or use CCH chat to log in quickly. While you're there, please write, what did you like best about Richard's presentation? I mean, I took away measure things that matter, the 3 A's, actionable, accessible, and auditable. Measurement is not an insight, which I thought was really interesting, kind of how the data all went through. And finally, be consistent, but be curious, which I really liked with the McDonald's, kind of how their consistency is all through, but the curious, creative side. So thank you very much for that, Richard.
You're welcome.
So I think we've got a couple more people in the chat room now, so I'm going to head over to our quiz. So yeah, we've got 46 people logged in, so callcenterhelper.com/chat. There's a chance to win a prize. You just need to use these voting buttons at the bottom of the chat room to take part. So last opportunity to log in. See if anybody else joins. So we will start. So the first question is, which of the following contact center tactics is not recommended when trying to increase customer satisfaction? Is it A, targeting advisors on average handling time? Is it B, increasing employee engagement? Is it C, making more time for coaching? Or is it D, fixing dead ends in the IVR? So just need to put it at the bottom of the chat room. Let's see how many people.
Play.
Yeah. We already did this the other day, Mike. You already know the answers.
You don't get champagne for that.
Yeah,
No.
indeed.
So we've got 39. Last chance to take part. Fab. So the answer is A, targeting advisors on average handling time. Looks like most people got that one. So yeah, if you pressure advisors to lower handle times, that will likely conflict with your goal to increase customer satisfaction. So next question, what percentage of contact center leaders view customer satisfaction as a very important metric? Is it A, 89.2%? Is it B, 69.2%? C, 49.2%? Or is it D, 22.2%? So this was from our most recent report that we had on our website. I'm sure we can put that into the chat room afterwards. Let's see if we've got a few more people. Right, there we go. So yep, the answer was A, 89.2%. So according to Call Centre Helper's 2019 report, what contact centres are doing right now, 89.2% believe CSAT is a very important metric. However, this was down on the previous 3 years. So I'm sure one of the team can put in a link to be able to download that full report. So they all changed on the leaderboard. So question, according to a 2019 report, which of the following companies is not one of the best 5 brands in terms of customer service? Is it A, First Direct? Is it B, BT? Is it C, M&S? Or is it D, Waterstones? So vote now on what you think. I think we've got a few more people to take part. And yep, the answer was B, BT, which I think most people got. BT did not make the top 5 best brands for customer service in Which's 2019 report, but it was included in the bottom 5 worst brands. So Mohammed's still coming out on top. And final question, which of the following statements would better satisfy a customer? Is it A, I'm sorry for any inconvenience caused? Or B, I'm sorry, I can see how this must have been frustrating for you. So which of the following statements would better satisfy a customer? I think the last few. So yep, that was B, I'm sorry, I can see how this must have been frustrating for you. The word any makes it sound as if you're placing doubt on what has happened, while the entire apology is devoid of any empathy. And the winner is Mohammed. Well done for that. We'll be in touch after the webinar to sort out the prize for you. So now over to our top tips and questions. I know our chat room has been absolutely flying while while Richard has been speaking. So let's head into that. So we've had an audience tip in from Daniel. He said, providing active feedback of a customer's comments to our advisors definitely supports the agent's attitude to providing improved customer experience. Also, further contact with customer via various channels, calls, emails, online, social media, to show we are listening is a really good approach to understanding our customers' feelings. Mike, what are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, I think it's good. I think it's if the customer has invested the time to actually give you the feedback, it's important that you actually, are seen to be using that, and the best way to do that, the best way to complement that investment on their time is to actually make a change, and that's pretty sound.
Yeah. So Tom sent one in saying, incentivizing your customer base to leave feedback is a really quick win for increasing the volume of feedback. Hashtag brilliant basics. Yeah, Richard, I think that's going back to yours with getting the basics right.
It is actually. Yeah, and I don't mean to be the voice of doom and gloom on this. Just add a note of caution in terms of incentivization, because ultimately what you don't want is to introduce any bias for people just literally taking part because you're incentivizing them. I mean, that's coming at it from a pure research perspective, but if it works from a volume perspective, then yeah, carry on.
Yeah. So Nadeem sent in a tip saying, empowering frontline staff by upskilling and providing access to technology to enhance FCR to increase customer satisfaction. Jessica sent one in saying, we close the feedback loop where our customers leave constructive feedback and we have permission. We contact our customers to get further detail and see if we can rectify any issues or simply apologise for errors and act on the feedback to improve our processes. Sometimes our customers are happy to see their feedback is being used. Richard, what do you think about that one?
I totally agree. Yeah, customers ultimately want conversations, and enriching conversations that add value, and make them feel, individual and, not part of a homogenous lump. Yep. So yeah, that is really positive. It's good.
Yeah. So Kathy sent in a tip saying, encourage staff to view customers as being their customers, not simply customer of the organisation. Consider if it were your own business, how would you like customers to feel? Isla sent one in saying, simplification of your customer survey greatly increases completion rates. Mike, what are your thoughts on this one?
Most certainly. I mean, the best results are those short, concise, simple, accessible surveys. So from that perspective, keep it short, keep it sharp, and you remember you can change it. So from that perspective, you can do lots of short ones. It doesn't have to be the same short one all the time. So that's a really good tip.
Yeah, but Richard, just as much, I'm guessing you'd say to make sure that you get enough insight out of it, that you're not simply doing it for the sake of it.
Yeah, absolutely spot on, Rachel. It's getting that balance between getting the customer through it, and so they're not feeling like they've wasted time and it's not too onerous, and balancing that with the insight that you're going to try and derive from it.
Yeah. So Angela sent in a tip saying multi-skilled teams to encourage first-time resolution. And an opinion from Daniel has said, we see around 20% of our customers completing surveys with a performance of around 80% CSAT and 44% NPS. We are continually looking to improve completion percentages as we still feel that we want to know more. So Mike, what are your thoughts on that opinion?
Yeah, and I'm just thinking back to some of the surveys that I fill out, and to be fair, the ones I do fill out tend to be ones where there is an incentive. So it probably does make me biased, Richard, from that perspective. I'm looking for the prize, but it's like, there's one that I get regularly from a preferred provider, if you like, that I use, and it's like I was just thinking about it in the webinar. It's like it's a 10-page thing, and it's like I just don't have time. And then I'm kind of wondering, well, what are they doing with it? And it have to be so grainy. So yeah.
So I think this is a great opportunity to hand over to you, Mike, to take us through your presentation. So I will do that now.
Okay, can you confirm you can see my screen okay?
Yep, I was just going to say I can't, but yes, it's jumped up, so fab.
Perfect. Okay. Right, so the area that I want to kind of cover all is just the application, I suppose, of technology in the context of customer satisfaction. That's the kind of role I'm playing here. The idea of like what are the proven techniques that are out there? We certainly have a lot of experience. We've got like the industry, I think, has kind of developed a lot of experience, and it was good to see in some of the polls, if you will, the things like the Net Promoter approach, the first contact resolution approach, the compliments approach. They seem to be kind of like bedded into the way that we operate now, compared to, I can remember some webinars in the not too distant past, Rachel, where there were kind of like new ideas and there were very small percentages, and all of those seem to have a good, decent score, if you like, in that poll, which is good to see. My kind of angle today really is just to kind of revisit some of the basics around customer satisfaction, because I really believe that there are things that I think I think technology can get in your way when you're trying to achieve good customer satisfaction, and there's lots of great technology in the contact center area. But if you will, I often see where technology actually creates its own problem, and that's kind of what I'm going to highlight on today. And the other sort of angle as well, I think, is that there's a lot of I would say mature technology out there, which is I would imagine quite a percentage, if you will, of the audience are running on pretty like old technology. And if you are, I would just encourage you to try and just revisit that, because the access to cloud-based new is very, very easy. And I think people might think that's a huge lift. Actually, it's not. And there's some interesting use cases available that you can talk to customers about who've made the change. But I just kind of feel, well, let's get through this and see where we get to. The first point I wanted to make really is about voice, which tends to be, if you will, the foundation of every contact center, really. And there's been lots of sort of buzz about social, in the contact center. There's been lots of buzz about digital messaging, and that's very important and it's very relevant and it's very, very helpful. But if you will, I just kind of don't want voice to be forgotten. And some sort of research that we have done as Genesys ourselves just kind of produced this statistic where 83% of customers say voice is still the preferred channel for complex interactions. And we're seeing this more and more, where the interactions that are getting through to the agent in the contact center tends to be the more complex stuff. We can often, if you like, help our customers online to kind of be self-serve. We can provide self-serve tools, which then kind of means whatever actually gets through to an individual tends to be more complex, or perhaps, unfortunately, maybe a complaint. But just don't underestimate, if you like, that when the customer kind of feels the need tends to be, I'm not getting satisfaction over here, therefore I need to talk to somebody. So just don't underestimate that, I would say, and sort of keep that in your mind's eye. It's the right way to respond to a customer who is in like a state of frustration, for sure. The next point really is around the idea of self-service, and Richard teed me up beautifully with this, and kind of mentioning the McDonald's sort of scenario. Today, if you like, we obviously use interactive voice response, the IVR sort of capability around, giving the customer access to the information that they need through sort of simple menus, that type of thing. That has become much more, if you like, accessible, much more friendly, much more easy to access. So I would kind of encourage the audience to think about deploying something of that nature into their contact center operations, and kind of do it quickly. Especially when you sort of see the volumes increase in other areas around digital, and from that perspective, it'll help you cope with those volumes in a nice managed way. Certainly, I would say in the past, if you will, there was lots of complexity around these kind of self-service tools, and they proved to be sort of challenging and costly. And I would say today it's become much more easy, very accessible, very simple. It really kind of does give the customer that sort of like hand in glove sort of notion of being looked after, if you like, by the brand, because you're giving the customer the choice, really. And from that perspective, I would say just don't underestimate it. From one of our customers, which is always the best place to get feedback, we have a nice statistic here that shows they got a 30% increase in satisfied customers, and consequently reduction in live help after moving to self-service interactive voice response. So that's again quite a meaty chunk, if you like, of dialogue that's been very wholesome and fulfilling for the customer without having to involve the agent. So don't underestimate the value of this, and get it right, and it'll work nicely for you. As we kind of start to talk about, if you will, digital, I just want to kind of put this up here for everybody to have a look at, and just take a moment to understand what it's saying. It's like, businesses are losing out on millions of micro opportunities to build their brand because they don't integrate with digital channel life. Okay, so it's a far-reaching statement, but when it kind of comes to the digital world and being able to kind of do what I need to do with my smartphone, if you like, the source of all the sort of digital options that customers have, and there are many. These are opportunities for brands to kind of maximize the experience for the customer, and to that end, we have to get smarter, if you will, around routing and queuing and handling these different channels. And I know there are lots and lots of platforms and choices out there for you to do that. My point is that it tends to be, if you like, a siloed piece of technology to do a siloed thing. So I go to a vendor to help me with my social conversations, and I'll go to a different vendor to help me with my chat and sort of like knowledge-based conversations, and then probably another vendor for email, and maybe something else for the voice. So that straight away creates problems. So from that perspective, kind of keep that in mind. Dimension Data, or NTT as they're now called, they did some research back in 2017, and they reckon that in 2018, consumers choose a norm of 11 channels to interact with businesses. And that's not unexpected, really, because with the smartphone, we're kind of giving the customer the choices. Where the brands are offering the access points for customers to come through. Remember, there is a gift card being offered on this webinar from a particular vendor who doesn't like to provide choices for their customers to get through to them. So there is an alternative to lots and lots of choice. Just bear that in mind. But I suppose the problem with lots and lots of disparate, separate platforms is the frustration of being able to manage and create a good experience. So we would advocate, and I would personally advocate, it's kind of been the foundation of the last 10 years of my kind of work experience. Getting to a point where you have one tool to handle everything becomes very valuable. And don't underestimate the value of that, because if it is one platform that's handling everything, there is one interface for your agents to learn, which makes it very easy to onboard agents. The training becomes very simple. When you have one routing engine, that kind of sounds more complicated than it is, but effectively it means that I'm managing all of my contacts. So all of my contacts, whichever way they're going, inbound or outbound, digital or not digital, I've got visibility of all of them, and I can measure all of them in a consistent way. So we're starting here to now attack the kind of like the Richard's 3 A's, the idea of about the accessibility of the information, because it has to be it has to be sort of common. It has to be common measurement. And I would imagine the way that sort of a social design brand would kind of measure contacts would be very different to a telephony-based platform, and how they would measure contacts. And what is handle time? Well, handle time over in the voice world means something, and we all kind of understand that. Handle time in the social world means maybe something completely different. And that then starts to create this blur of the information about what am I actually looking at here? What can I drive my decisions on, if you like, if there's kind of a blur, if you like, in the understanding of the data. And the last point I'd advocate about the kind of the all-in-one approach is about having like one ongoing conversation, because you're dealing with a customer, so kind of get it back to the root of what we're trying to do here: deliver great customer satisfaction. And that comes down to the individual. I am a customer, I'm spending my money, and I want to know that you as a brand are treating me and dealing with me in a consistent and, if you like, appropriate way that I want to continue spending my money with you. And so by having a single platform to manage all of that same customer's interactions, you end up with one ongoing conversation, which becomes very, very valuable, really, really valuable. So don't underestimate that, and don't lose those kind of micro moments of information that you have. The next point really is just about email, and email is kind of like very, very important. It often has this kind of notion that it's fine, it's email, we can kind of respond to that in 24 hours, or maybe sometimes longer, sadly. I've seen sort of people being proud that, well, we have a 4-hour SLA in our email, and that's that's kind of something to be proud of. And okay, if that what works for you, fine. But I would advocate, why can't I respond to the email immediately? If a call is coming through and I'm dealing with the call, I will respond to it immediately. So why can't I respond to that email immediately? And if you do, the effect it has for your customer is extraordinary, and it's very pleasing, it's very rewarding, it's very satisfying. So think about that in your workforce scheduling and your planning. There's no reason why that can't be measured, managed, analyzed, and counted for, and the headcount provided to provide that. The impact on customer satisfaction will be terrific. The next sort of thing to sort of remind about really is that customers like chat, and they like chat because they can be kind of doing several things at once, if that makes sense. And it's like a casual alternative to voice, which is kind of cool. It gets me the answer that I need. So again, keep that sort of like a valuable sort of access point there for your customers. It's a great choice option, and it does actually give that sort of like about share, if you like, of the workload, but don't sort of rely on it to help you reduce call handling, because it won't. Okay, and it'll end up with its own congestion. So when you have that sort of all-in-one notion, it'll sort of become very clear, if you will, that you're not offsetting one with the other, you're just providing the choice for the customer. And then this one really I like very much, and this is around SMS. And we naturally, I think, we get a little ping on our smartphone, we know that's a message, and with that, we just immediately will kind of glance to it. So within 3 minutes, of SMS messaging being received, 90% are read. And from a marketing organization, that's just pure gold, right? That's really where I want to be sending all of my marketing messages. So start to incorporate SMS into your customer experience flows and make them part of how you fulfill your promise to your customer. It's very, very cost effective. It's very, very easy. It's very, very accessible. And you'll get, if you like, the information that you need and the answers that you need probably better through SMS. Even things like reminding the customer that we have an appointment on Tuesday and I'm going to be calling you on Tuesday at 10. And just that simple sort of proactive approach, if you will, I think will build a good sort of like improvement, if you will, to customer sat. And I suppose the point then I just want to summarize on with regards to the all-in-one is that because everything is on a single sort of routing engine or a single platform, I'm recording everything in a consistent way. I'm analyzing everything in a consistent way, whether it's voice, whether it's text. The tools are there to help me kind of do that and provide good insights to help you make the right decisions. And I suppose I would say it's kind of nailing the 3 A's. It's getting you the right sort of actionable sort of measures. It's getting you the sort of access to that information, and then it's helping you with an audit trail of where it's come from and how it's come from and why we're making a decision, so that you can say in a week's time we've made a step change improvement or not, based upon the fact. The really important, as we just said, about auditable, it must be, and that's really where the power of the all-in-one really starts to make it play. Yes, it becomes more easy to get into your CRM systems, and then yes, it'll allow you to be better, to be proactive with your customers. But just don't forget the value of that all-in-one. It becomes quite important. Clearly, Richard spent quite a bit of time around data, and I kind of mentioned in the conversation earlier about, over the years we as technology providers have been encouraged, if you will, to well, how many reports does your platform support, Mike? Well, it's 80. So, oh, okay, well, these guys over here, they've got 115. Maybe I should be working with these guys. So this is an often question that we get, if you like, from the field. But again, what's the value of the information that's being provided? And if you have this kind of like fragmented sort of deployment of multiple providers and multiple different platforms, you're going to have a lot of sort of fragmented visibility, and that's going to create, in my eyes, if you like, a fog about being able to get to the right information to help you decide. So that's kind of one of the consequences, if you will, of that sort of legacy approach where we had lots of separate systems. It becomes really, really hard and inflexible, and you really can't access it. It's so important that we get the information to the right user, and it tends to be, Richard pointed out that it's like all the users need access to their data, and we should be looking at tools to give them that. So I'll come on to that later, but these are the sort of problems, if you will, if you don't have that sort of holistic, single kind of view of everything. And today, if you will, you're looking at things which are typically browser-based, typically sort of like simple to access. If your provider is kind of working on your behalf, they're simplifying that notion of you don't need 80 or 115 reports, you just need access to the right data. And then to be able to drill into the data is quite friendly and quite nice. That kind of gives me what I need. It allows me to sort of say in the morning, well, actually, these are the sort of hot key indicators that I have as Mike, and I sort of set them up. And then on every single day, that just runs in the background and provides me what I need when I need it at my fingertips. And that's really cool. That'll be a totally different view to what Rachel might want to see, because her requirements and her KPIs and her responsibilities are very different to mine. So again, think about the fact that the data is there in the platform, but if you like, how you surface it and how you surface the right pieces of data become more valuable to you. And it doesn't have to be reams of paper. And if you find you're looking over 5 different places to kind of get information, that straight away is like a red flag, and that's kind of where things aren't looking that good, and there's going to be like fog in that information. Here's a nice sort of display about real-time and historical, if you like, on the same view. Again, it's a tablet, okay? So we talk about getting to the boardroom, trying to create this sort of ROI arguments to create sort of funding to change. Well, with these kind of tools, it becomes very, very accessible to have the kind of information at your fingertips to kind of answer those questions straight away and show, if you like, how over time we have achieved improvement, or we have not achieved an improvement because we were impacted by the coronavirus, perhaps, or whatever it may be that's kind of impacted or derailed your strategy. But again, it's accessible, and even down, if you like, to the agent level. I want to know how I'm doing as an individual. I want to be compared against my peers because I'm competitive. I want to be better, and therefore, without that information, without that insight, that becomes difficult. So again, where we really encourage, if you like, the sharing and the accessibility of that information. And modern day technology, whoever you choose, should be kind of operating in this way. You're friendly, open, web-based, accessible, customized views. That becomes, if you like, a great way to deliver customer sat. Then the last point I kind of just wanted to sort of touch on was this kind of notion, if you like, of about, well, so how do I get there? Or if you like, this sounds like a big sort of significant change, and yes, it is. If you look at the sort of menu that's on your screen there, these are all the components that are sitting in your contact center today, probably. And I would say, of all these components, you're probably looking at different vendors for most of those. There may be one single person looking after them, but if you look at the tech underneath, there's probably one individual separate piece of disparate technology doing all these little pieces to try and help you achieve what you're looking for. And I find that really, really hard to work with. And if you're in that sort of situation, then think hard about change, because it's quite important. The last point I wanted to sort of say is that when you look at things like cloud offerings, the whole point of cloud is that it's easier, it becomes more accessible, and therefore I need less time to kind of discover and kind of build what my customers want for change. When you actually implement, you can see 60% less time to actually implement. That becomes very, very important. And then, like on top of that, then cost savings become very, very useful around the time of change. So don't see change as a heavy lift. I would say see change as an opportunity, because like that, that sort of 65% spend that you make on that change will be well paid back very, very, very quickly. So there were my comments, Rachel. I hope they were helpful, and I look forward to more tips from the audience.
Brilliant. Thank you very much for that, Mike. I will share my key takeaways, but I'm just going to first share a quick poll about would you like a demonstration of some of the Genesys solutions? So just click which option you'd like. So yeah, Mike, some brilliant information. What I took away was your customer communicates on many different channels. I mean, 11 was quite shocking. So you should too. Delight your customers with in the moment emails. For me, often a forgotten channel, you know, kind of an automated one saying, I've definitely had one, so yes, we'll reply within a week. So make sure you don't forget that. And 90% of SMS messages are read within 3 minutes. I know that we're all kind of right next to our phones. Yeah. I mean, my Fitbit buzzes when I get a text. So, you know, make sure you use that channel as well. So over onto our chat room, lots more top tips. I'm just going to push that over. So one from Kathy saying, make sure that customer feedback is actually directed at your organization. Customers are bombarded with requests for feedback from many organizations and can easily confuse these if your request is unclear and not branded effectively. You can waste a lot of time chasing feedback that has nothing to do with you unless you quantify. Richard, what are your thoughts on that one?
Yeah, it's a really good point. I think the industry or business as a whole has been suffering from survey overkill for quite a number of years now. I mean, I've not worked in the research industry since 2011, and we were experiencing survey fatigue even back then, and it's only just got worse. Every time you land on an internet page, you get a pop-up, can you just share some feedback for 2 minutes with us? And we're much more time poor than we ever used to be, and we just, you know, we haven't got the time, you know, but yeah, it's a really good point.
So Callum sent in one saying, encouraging agents to focus solely on their customer needs and how best to help them will drive improvements in CSAT. More focus on coaching and improving agents' confidence in their own abilities. Less focus on AHT and volumes of calls which aren't as relevant to agents or customers. We've had an opinion in from Erin who said, big barrier to improving customer satisfaction, broken products, known bugs with limited engineering resources to make fixes. Harry sent in a tip saying, ensuring your staff satisfaction is looked after and they will ensure the customer satisfaction is handled by themselves. Mike, what are your thoughts on that one?
Sorry, Rachel, I just had to quickly take a note there.
Oh.
No, I agree absolutely. Yeah, that's very important. I mean, like it's the team effect, I feel, and if we all feel we're working as a team of colleagues, kind of, you know, meeting the needs of our customers, then I think we all feel, you know, better about, if like, onward looking after our customers. So yeah, I kind of like that.
Yeah. So Ali sent an opinion saying, looking after your employees as it's International Women's Day on the 8th of March and Employee Appreciation Week this week, and making sure you celebrate your employees' worth without engaged staff, the business will not function. So we had a question in from Tom who said, what would you say the most effective tip for increasing CSAT scores through emails or ticketing system is? Mike, would this be one for you?
So can you sort of like ping out a like an SMS, if you will, on the back of a, you know, when a ticket is closed, is it possible for you to sort of ping out like an email with like 2 questions on it? That might be an easy one, or like an SMS ideally, because we know that gets 90% read. That might be easy, just with like a yes or no answer, or maybe 2 answers. That might be good. So that might be a good way to do it.
Brilliant. So unfortunately, we've reached the top of the hour. So we would like to know in 1 or 2 words, what did you like best about today's webinar? If you could just put that into the chat room. Today's winning tip is from Erin, who said, setting up reporting to automatically send customer effort scores or CSAT scores coupled with customer comments directly to agents every morning so they can follow up with customers that still have questions or had an unsatisfactory experience. So Congratulations, Erin. We'll be in touch after the webinar to sort out your prize. Just a reminder, we have our own survey, so please fill it in. It is insight that we do use. We do develop new bits according to what people say, and we love your suggestions. Just a reminder, the replay and slides will be available later on this afternoon on callcenterhelper.com/recorded-webinars. We are back next week with our webinar about 5 things you need to be analysing in your contact centre. So register for them there. But I'd just like to say thank you very much to our 2 speakers. Richard, Kimber, thank you very much for your insights. It's been brilliant having you today.
You're welcome.
And to Mike Murphy from Genesys, thank you very much for your kind of technology side and all your interesting insights as well.
Thanks, Rachel, and thanks, Richard, and thank you, audience. Look forward to the next one.
Brilliant, and we will be back in a week's time. Thank you very much, everyone. Bye.
Thank you.